what is a trend that is coming up?
I'm not a very trend-based person, and I think I feel like trends come and go, and especially with weddings, because I feel like these are pictures that you're going to have for your lifetime. I feel like I like to keep everything classic. So I'm never going to be like, okay, the trend is blue eyeshadow. Now I'm going to try blue eyeshadow on you because you're wearing a blue outfit or whatever. So I feel like my approach to makeup, and especially bridal makeup, is always been classic, so that you look back, or your kids or your grandparents, and I feel that your grandchildren, when they look back, they need to be like, oh my god, this is so timeless.
The luxury, the brand and everything, which you have it now. Do you also work with a certain brand of makeup products? Like how particular you are about that?
Products have to be amazing in terms of texture, longevity, and again, if that's something that I won't put on my face, you won't find on my kit. And I think very early on, I don't want to name the brand, but it's a very widely used, very famous brand. And I remember using the foundation on my skin, and I broke out. And I was like, and that was the only brand that was available back in India. And I was like, I swore that I will never have those foundations in my kit.
I believe you have your own product.
Yes, I do.
So tell us more about it. It's very exciting, by the way.
Thank you. So so it's called Moke Beauty, and Moke means with love from my mother tongue Tulu, which is Mangalore. And I've always wanted, it's been a dream for almost like 12 years that I wanted to start this brand, purely from the frustration that there was no brands that was really catering to, say, the Indian skin tone.
Mm-hmm. Sandhya, thank you so much for joining us at the wedding show of by Radz. And thank you for this beautiful Bombay afternoon you're spending with us. The reason why I started this India series of podcasts is because I want to promote Indian vendors in wedding industry in US. The reason is because everyone can travel nowadays, and hair and makeup artists, DJs, photo video, the decorators, they all can travel and show your talent and use your talent in US wedding industry. So thank you so much for joining. Now I want to talk about your journey. So let's start off with that.
Thank you for having me. First of all, I'm just working out these dates after all the back and forth, but it's an absolute pleasure to be here and sharing this space with you right now.
That's excellent. So tell me about your journey.
Well, I started when I was 25, so that's almost 16 years ago. And I was into banking. I chose the traditional path because I didn't know any better.
The good South Indian girl.
Very good. Also a nerd, so I had to do it by the books. And so that's how my journey began. But I was always drawn to beauty from a very young age. And when I say young, I can probably date it back to probably when I was 3 years old. So I just like play with colors. I would just paint my face. And I think as I got older, like by the time I reached school, college, I think that fascination started growing mostly towards, looking at people and being like, if this person did their makeup this way, I'd do like a mental makeup on them. And wherever I found the opportunity to like paint people's faces, which is largely, college, like dance and performance, I would just jump on that and like really use that opportunity. But never from a point of like, oh, I want to become a makeup artist. I didn't even know it existed. But mostly from the fact that, like I said, I was so drawn to beauty that I was like, I wanted to make people look beautiful. And I think there is a certain sense of power that you can kind of like, share when you are able to do that. So I think that's where it started. And I think when my corporate career, I was not really enjoying it so much because I feel like I'm so not cut for the corporate culture. And I was like, okay, what next? And I all I remember was like, I don't want to have a boss under me, and I need to get into something wherein I'm my own boss. And again, I think at that point in time, I was in Bangalore. I did have a couple of friends who were in styling, hair and makeup, and I saw their life very closely. And by then, I was aware of the fact that okay, there's something called as being makeup artist, which is not your beautician or a salon, which what we knew back then,
Correct.
or your makeup dadas who did, for like a drama or theater. And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. I'll do a few weddings, I'll do a few bridal jobs, I'll survive, and that's how I'll make a living out of it. And I think that's where the whole thing started. And I just kind of quit my banking job, and I was like, okay, I went and started training in makeup, and then that's how my journey started. Yeah.
Oh, where did you train from?
So I did a couple of courses initially. So this friend, like I said, who was in Bangalore, and my initial training was with him for about a month. I did a lot of short courses, and I went to like London for a short course again. I came back to Bombay because Bombay was where all the action was, and I was like,
Yes.
okay, I need to enter this market. So at that point in time, there was Nahush. He mostly does FX and prosthetics, and he had a very basic offering. So I jumped into that, and I think for me that kind of like opened my way into, say, the world of Bombay and fashion and cinema and
Films, yes.
everything. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's amazing. And you started this, the bridal or the wedding brand recently?
So I'd say I've always been doing weddings,
Mhm.
but I think my fascination has always been towards fashion. And I think when what happens is that when you pursue a career in fashion, you end up showcasing a lot more work of fashion and very less of bridal. And bridal has always been a part of what I was doing, but I don't think I really promoted myself as a bridal makeup artist. Eventually, that fashion took me to doing a lot of celebrity work. So I think even in terms of hierarchy for a makeup artist, it's always the fashion jobs that kind of puts you in the top of like money, or the kind of jobs that you want to get. So that was my aim once I got into makeup, even though initial idea was to like, oh, I want to do brides and survive, right? But once I learned makeup, I was like, I'm gunning for the best of the stuff. And the fashion drew me, and celebrities happened. And I've always done bridals, but never really promoted it because I feel, sadly, one of the things with fashion and bridal is that it doesn't really go hand in hand.
Yes, doesn't.
Wherein, if you do put it out, you get typecasted as a bridal makeup artist, and you don't really get the best of, say, celebrity work or fashion work. So I think I didn't want to be typecasted, but I do end up doing about, like, say, 7 to 10 big weddings a year. But that, of course, is all the creme de la creme of the weddings that come to me, which I kind of prefer that, in a sense, because they really come in for my style of work. And a lot of times it's not the planners reaching out to me, it's the bride herself reaching out to me and being like, listen, I love your makeup and I want to look like this. And I think that for me is, yeah. So I'd say I've been pretty much doing a lot of brides all throughout my career, which is like 16 years now.
Wow, how lucky to have organic growth, especially when it is hand in hand with passion. So I
Absolutely.
love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I know that you were introduced to me by Manav from Sabyasachi, and I completely understand why, because you are in that fashion, uh, industry. I would
Mhm.
say not the wedding industry as such, so it works out perfect. I hope that you can do few weddings for us in US. What I understood from your talk is that you definitely gear towards the luxury weddings.
Mhm.
Now, with the luxury weddings, there is a lot of pressure which comes together.
Mhm.
I know that you're used to the fashion industry and there's pressure with that. But wedding has its own pressure because we have the timelines, and then we have the bride's thoughts, and then you will have the moms who will come and tell you, oh, this is not the way it is supposed to be done. So how do you navigate that?
So I feel one of the things with handling, customer expectations and pressure is definitely the fact that for us, especially, I feel with your celebrity clients and your on an everyday shoot, we handle a lot more pressure than that. So this becomes pretty much like easy peasy, to be very honest.
Yes.
But I go in with a lot of preparation, and I think this is for all the jobs, just not for bridal. And with bridal, for me especially, I feel there's an extra sense of responsibility that's attached,
Mm.
purely because it's your big day. And so I, from the time that someone books me for their wedding, which could be 6 months, it could be a year, I feel like our preparation starts from there on, because I also believe that um, my style of makeup is mostly natural. But having said that, I still want to elevate your look on that particular day, and I really like to work with the client with all their problem areas, especially their skin, hair, everything, way in advance, as opposed to being like, okay, I'm just going to come put makeup on you on that day. So that is the most important part for me, which is like a preliminary call, which is understanding their requirements, what is their routine like, if there's any shift that they need to do, say from a diet perspective. If I think if those are very small changes, um, that's something that I can suggest. But if I feel that they need extra help, I do have like a set of people, resources that I kind of like put them on to. These are people, doctors that I've worked with like so many years, and again, people that I go to and like really trusted people. But I think just building awareness in the sense that these are your options, and you can probably do XYZ till your day. And I feel most of the girls these days are
Yes.
very aware, and I think also very willing to kind of like put in this kind of work.
I think you finished that. So I
Yeah,
like that. So
yeah,
maybe I'll add into that.
yeah.
Um, so Sandhya, cultural authenticity, that's like a big thing for the wedding, especially the ceremonies, or even sometimes the reception. I remember one of the brides, she was wearing a sari, and that time the sari, I think 4 5 years back, when the sari had just come back, with Anushka wearing
Mm-hmm.
the Banarasi sari and everything,
Right.
and the I think it was a request from a mother-in-law. He said, "Oh, you have to wear this kamar band, like a belt, like a thick belt." And I remember her confidence went down. Suddenly, I could see that the confidence went down. Of course, she wore it. She was a sport, and she was fine with it. My point is, yes, there is that authenticity of culture, but especially with the moms and the in-laws, I'm sure you must be incorporating their thoughts too. But do you also get them to talk to you? Because I've seen a lot of the moms, and like the women, the moms and the mom-in-laws are usually in their 60s or pushing 60s or 70s sometimes, very rarely. Uh, I see a lot of people getting some jobs done,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the wedding, because our weddings we plan 6 months or 1 year out sometimes. So, do you usually guide them, bride and the family, with
Mm.
that?
It's usually been the bride, but I feel like there's been very less requests in terms of, say, the family per se. Um, because I feel like usually when you are recommending, say, a dermatologist or an
Mm.
esthetician, it kind of gets passed on to the family as well. So I feel like directly no, but like definitely with the bride, like I said, there is a whole lot of like, I'd say pretty much like a ritual, like from a food point of view, from hair care, like, and if that person has to even go get a haircut or a color or something from somebody specific, because you want their skin to be the best, or
Yes.
everything like skin, hair, everything to be the best on that day. And you don't want those last minute of like um
Blemishes.
blemishes is
Yes.
one thing, but also sometimes there are peels,
Oh.
where I've had these, in early on in my career, and I think these steps have been added on after every experience that, okay, this is something that I need to tell them. And
Right.
in fact, to a point even where I tell them not to do their eyebrows. So
Really?
I do, because I feel like eyebrows are like the most defying part of your face. And usually what happens is that when you go thread your eyebrows, or somehow there is it's not the best, it's not the most complimentary on their face. So I always tell them to leave it on, and then I go and, like, shape their brows. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes, yeah, people are like, oh my God, it's grown too much. And I'd be like, just like wait it out. Like, it's
right.
worth the wait till you meet me. Yeah.
You make it literally a big day out of that, because it is called big day for some reason.
Right.
And you do that. That's amazing. I'm sure, especially when you have a 3 or 4 days
Mm-hmm.
events and back to back looks, so you want to make sure that you're super confident about even the
Yeah.
eyebrows. uh,
Yeah.
Now, going back to the 3 to 4 days of events, there is a burnout, which I see.
Mm-hmm.
By the time reception hits, the bride are usually sleeping in their chairs. How do you handle that? I know as a planner, we have to make timelines and prepare themselves. Like, look, you will have to smile a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll have to get ready a lot. Grooms has it easy usually,
Right.
but for the bride and the moms and the sisters, it is difficult. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do you usually handle that?
I think one of the most, like, I'd say, techniques which I keep sharing with everybody is icing your face.
Oh,
Really taking that big bowl of ice, putting your face in, it really calms your nervous system.
oh,
And you see such an instant shift, because, like you said, for me, I've seen brides falling to sleep on day two, not even on the last day. And usually when they're booking me, I'm just like, when they're telling me the number of functions, I'm like, oh, in my head, I'm like, oh God, you're
poor
going to be
girl.
so dead by day two.
Right.
But icing really helps. And because like I said, it calms your parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
And it really kind of like energizes you, it calms you down, because there's so much chaos around.
Yes.
The other thing that I also suggest my brides early on is to get lots of massages. And this is something that I kind of prep them early on. So I also do a call with them about 2 weeks before the starting of the wedding functions. And that's when we do a little bit of, like, we send in a PDF with like a whole deck dividing, like, these are your looks, because by then your clothes are ready,
Correct.
this is your hair, makeup, and we kind of like narrow down the hair makeup options. But that's also the time when I'm reminding them that, okay, you need to really boost up your hydration, you need to really kind of like get in that extra relaxation, because that's when things start getting very chaotic. And small things like massage or anything that's kind of like nourishing your nervous system, your soul, I feel it kind of like really adds up to the day. Because at the end of the day, I feel like we're talking about bridal glow, right? And that glow is, yes, of course, you can do makeup, you can do all of that. But internally, if you're not, if you're tired, or if you're not happy, or if you're drained out, no matter amount of makeup or any kind of amazing outfit is not going to be doing justice. So I feel that I'm constantly reminding them about this. And I think hydration, like,
Yes.
we tend to forget how much of that energy can come from, say, just drinking, say, tender coconut or electrol. Or and that's the same with like the shadow as well. I keep telling them that, keep feeding her, like, ensure that she's drinking these many glasses of like water or electrol. So there is a little of that I do, because I feel that kind of adds up in the long run. But yeah, that's pretty much,
You
my
prepare.
way of preparing them for it. But I think I'd be like, you've done your best. Now you just have to kind of like not stress about those little things. And I just tell them to relax about
Right.
everything,
Right.
because what has to go wrong will go wrong.
No, and I completely agree. The happiest brides are the prettiest brides. If you're happy internally, everything will be fine. I remember one of the bride and groom, at the last minute, uh, the somebody had their garlands,
Mm-hmm.
which we exchanged, and that person forgot. And we got it on time, but after the wedding, when I asked them, I said, "Oh, I hope you were not stressed because that's the last thing I want." He said, "No, we could have just hugged it out, even if at all we didn't have garlands." I mean, that kind of
Mm.
mindset, it will always keep you not only happy on the day off, but also for the life.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the biggest lesson that I think I learned from that perspective, from the bride and groom, that you know what, if at all you're chilled, you are going to look the best because you're going
Absolutely.
to feel the best. Also, I've seen artificial ivy.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the growth of it. Nowadays, a
Right.
lot of ivy. Do you see that too?
Absolutely. I feel that's another thing as well. I have not really seen. I do suggest that as well, depending on people, how what their energy levels are, and if I think that they really need it, I'd be like, hey, listen, why don't you get that? But of course, if there's a lot of like partying, dancing,
Yes.
which in fact, like there's been a lot of weddings where on location there's been like ivy, which I think is great because
Yeah.
it gives you that boost of energy the
Right.
next day. So yeah,
We do a
absolutely.
lot in US. Most of
Yeah,
the weddings we end up doing because it really makes you feel like a new person.
absolutely.
Because you've had a late night. Now, next day is you have another big day. Let's
Right.
get you going. And when you talked about shadow, we call them attendants. So we call them
Right.
bridal attendant and groom's attendant. What we do is, and I think it's a big tip for all the wedding planners, that make sure, ask them what's their favorite food, give them the
Mm,
breakfast on time. When they wake up, make sure they're hydrated. I mean, those are the jobs of the bridal
yeah,
attendant, which we always do. Make sure that they're fed and hydrated all the time.
absolutely. Yeah, and
So,
not leave them hangry.
right. uh, uh, I know that you must be, dealing with a lot of different cultural, different race, everything, all the brides and grooms. How do you prepare yourself to make sure that you understand their culture, or is it like you just have a process with the brides and grooms?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm very process led and go into like a lot of planning. So yeah, my initial call is largely to understand, okay, what are your functions? What are you expecting in terms of like, is how is your drape gonna look like? Is there a particular hairstyle? Because I think culturally, especially also in India, every part of India has a different, way of draping, a different ceremony. uh, it could be like it's so diverse, and I feel that preliminary call really helps me to understand that. um, and then of course there's the other set of things like it also gives me time to prep if I have to research, which could be understanding what a particular drape would look like. Especially in the south, you do have a lot of like different drapes that they do. And then of course getting closer to the dates, which is like I said, 2 weeks before, we send in like a mood board with different kind of like options in terms of one incorporating their ideas, which I think also answers one of your questions that you asked earlier about parents, their opinions and things like that. So I do take into account that as well and like put that into the mood board. I will also kind of give them a more modern, comfortable version of it because I feel at the end of the day, they need to feel comfortable. And then, of course, incorporating a little of things if their parents want that particular chain or that piece of
Hmm.
jewelry. How can we best incorporate that as well? There's always a way. I honestly believe that. And at the end of it, if it doesn't work, no big deal. We can always kind of like, at least we've tried and we've
Right.
not really not given it a shot. Yeah.
Most of the weddings that you do, especially because those are all luxury weddings, there would be a planner involved.
Mm-hmm.
What does your ideal relationship with the planner look like? Because I think as planners, we can take a lot of pointers. Every wedding that I do, although I've been doing it for too many years now, I still learn because I want to. I want to do better for the next one, right? So, what is your ideal relationship?
I think getting not getting too many people involved between, say, the planner bride and us, because
Hmm.
I feel that too many cooks and kind of
Right.
spoils the game by the time it's the wedding.
Yes.
I feel like the other thing is that there's always going to be a delay for every function, right? Because once you're there, then you're just kind of like you're in the moment, and then things tend to get delayed. But I feel like just giving us a more realistic time in
Timeline.
terms of like, hey, this is what the timing looks like as of now. And I feel like especially in India, I'm not saying
Yeah.
outside of India, but especially in India, I feel like people don't really value your time, which is because you're booked, then they think that you've been booked for the whole
Whole
day.
day.
But
Yes, they own you. They own you, Sandhya.
they own you. So not necessarily planner, but just
Yes.
generally, I'm talking about.
Right.
So I feel like from that point of view, it can definitely be better. Um, but I think also, I think really understanding and talking to the artist itself in terms of like the requirements and on a more direct basis, as opposed to doing it through like, couple of the team members. I
Oh,
feel
okay.
like sometimes that also creates a lot of confusion.
Confusion. Correct. So here's what we do in US, and it's very common that we do. First of all, we go by the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a delay of even half an hour, I won't be able to sleep for many months. So I love my sleep after the wedding. So I definitely, I mean, at least most of the planners, we
Mm-hmm.
go by that. Over here, I attended a wedding a few weeks back in Delhi, and I saw that the Bharat went on for 3.5 hours. Unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
don't do that. It's 45 minutes to 1 hour of Bharat. And that's about it, because everything has to go by the books, because
Right.
all the guests are on time, and we finish the events also on time. So that's one thing which I would love to show it to all the vendors from India when you guys work with us. And the second thing is, we do a call, like how you and we are part of that call when you do a call with the bride and the moms or whoever that you're styling. We do a call and we make sure that we incorporate anything that you want. So for an example, you say, you know what, at this time I will need the room to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
We will take
Right.
that and we'll make sure that the room is clear. So those are the things I think is very important as planners for us to make sure that uh, we give you a platform where you work your best,
Mm.
because the wedding and all the vendors have to we all have to work at our best capacity, and that can be done only when I give you that platform. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
we are always going to have some kind of a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
which we do not want on the day of, definitely. So I'm so glad that you talked about the timeline, because that is very important for us, like a Bible for us, and we go by that. Now, let's talk about how do you usually involve yourself in styling of the bride, or and the color palettes and everything, when if at all you are on board before they start their wardrobe.
I think it's just it depends on the brides mostly. Some of them they come in with already everything kind of like they come in maybe 3 months before, so a lot of their outfits, everything is decided. Um, but I'd say about 25% of the times, yes, they do ask for suggestions, because I think we also work with a lot of designers.
Mm.
We get to see a lot of things way before it is out. So they'd be like, okay, is there something that, you've seen that is not really out there? And then that kind of really helps. But also, I think there's so many Indian designers. Sometimes they do take your recommendations in terms of like, can you suggest me a designer that I could wear for, say, day one or the smaller function? So it's very subjective, to be very honest, but definitely when it comes to the main day, so if there's a lehenga or if there's a sari to be draped a certain ways that the designer wants them in a particular way, we definitely kind of incorporate that, wherein I ask for a video or a photo at least from the designer team, so that we can kind of replicate that for you. Or if not, then if you trust in terms of what I'm bringing in, then we kind of show you different drapes on
Options.
that options on that particular day. So
Right.
yeah.
And I know that most of the makeup artists, and I'm sure you must be doing it, where you recommend what kind of jewelry will suit your face structure and your hair, and the kind of hairstyle that you're going to go with.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
We these days what I've seen is that brides do have options. They might not really come, or at least the ones that I worked with, they don't really come in with, say, asking where to buy the jewelry, but they definitely come in with like a lot of options for jewelry. So I think at that point in time, our jobs also becomes about styling. So again, that's very subjective. So maybe about 30 to 40% is when that happens. Some girls are very sure because if they're working with one piece of jewelry, they're like, this is what I'm wearing. And that's also, it happens pretty often. And I think I also do a lot of um, NRI brides where they might not really go that crazy with, the options and things like that. They're very like, okay, this is my outfit, this is my jewelry, and they're very specific, which is kind of nice as well, which,
Yeah.
then cuts down the clutter of understanding which one to go to in the 50 different, choices that they have for the couple of days. Yeah.
Right. I've seen it with most of the America based brides. Minimalism is the new luxury.
Mm-hmm.
They go with minimal makeup, minimal jewelry, maybe one or two pieces of jewelry is what I've seen. Is it also the trend everywhere else in the world with Indian weddings?
I think so too. I feel like it's catching up in the sense that most of the younger girls, the well traveled, who lean on to that kind of aesthetic, definitely are going that way whenever they have a choice. Um, I mean, I think even with the weddings, I've not really seen many where, like, four or five different sets. It's all kind of coming down to like one statement piece, one big earring, like, even like I haven't seen like a waist belt in a long time. So I feel like it is kind of like getting much more minimal, like as well as like I feel like um, a lot more people don't want to be wearing so much of weight
Yes.
on them, and that includes even the outfit choices, like they're reducing the amount of can that goes in because I
Yes.
think they want to be comfortable at the end of the day. And sometimes when they have options, they've always gone for, they'll wear it for an hour, they'll take the pictures, and then they'll change into something a lot more lighter, so and then of course the whole trend of wearing sneakers,
Yes.
after 1 hour of the fair or whatever, they're like, okay, I can't be bothered.
Right.
I want to be comfortable, which is kind of good. Yeah.
Right. I've
Yeah.
seen sneakers now also worn by the immediate family. They all are in
Absolutely.
sneakers,
Yeah,
and they will just
absolutely.
like pick up the bag and say, like, "Look, Urvashi, we are wearing sneakers." I said, "Yes, that's perfect." Also, another thing I have seen is nowadays the brides don't even wear dupatta. They do not like they do the pictures, they'll do the speeches, and then remove the dupatta. Like in Falguni Shen Peacock, which is the dupatta is the main thing
Think,
for their
yeah.
outfit, but they don't wear it. So that I've
Yeah.
seen a more minimalistic look in their comfort level is, but I think that's important,
Yeah.
especially dancing, because that's
Absolutely.
what they want to do. They are meeting their friends, family, maybe after months, days, years, sometime.
Yeah.
So they want to enjoy that
Mm-hmm.
weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely understand that. I wish I knew when I was getting married that there was an option. How important are the trials for the brides?
So I don't do any trials. It's been almost, I would say, about close to, I think, 13 years. I used to initially because I had the luxury of time. I wasn't so busy. Um, so for me personally, I don't think it's important. That's why I kind of, my prep becomes very important where I do multiple calls, I do mood boards. And in the mood boards, I also give them two or three options of what the hair could be, what the makeup would look like. And then we get on a call to understand, okay, this is what, the bride is vibing with. So for me, that's also very important. Out of the three options, what are you feeling?
Hmm.
So, and it's not like one is better than the other. All three are great options, but it's more about what are you leaning on to and what do you see yourself or visualize yourself in. So, I feel like that for me kind of simplifies the whole process. And the reason why I feel like I don't do also trials or there's no need because I work on so many faces every day. So, it's almost like especially when you're working on shoots or celebrities. It's not like you get to work on them before. It's like you see them, you kind of know. It's you wake us up in the middle of the night and ask us to paint the face. We can paint the face, right? But these multiple calls definitely helps me to understand what is the aesthetic like. Um, what is like, sometimes also when people say natural, this also has happened to me, where their idea of natural and my idea of natural is very different. So then I do end up asking them to send me pictures as well, which then gives me an idea of, okay, is it a more filtered natural, because sometimes when you see these days on Pinterest, there's a lot of like retouching that's being done, as opposed to, say, when I do natural, I generally don't like to put a lot of makeup. So you can see skin, but it's like a lot more enhanced. There is texture and things like that. So then understanding where is your natural and where is my natural.
I think the Pinterest and social media has opened up so many questions for all of us,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure the hair and makeup artists, I think, pay the brunt of it. How do you manage that? Because sometimes, and we do that, we manage it. They come basically, okay, you know what, I want this, and I look at the budget sheet. I was like, no, I'm
Mm,
sorry, you won't be able to get something like that. And I'm
yeah.
sure you may have the same thing, like, okay, I want a big mang tikka because that's my statement piece, but the forehead may not need that. So
Yeah. So I feel like in terms of for makeup and hair especially, um, I feel the calls really help me to kind of give them a clear pathway, or like a visual identity, if I were to say, of what that could look like. And of course, sometimes people do come with a very strong opinion. And I think for us, having done fashion or shoots on an everyday basis, for us, we kind of like know what works and what doesn't work. Like, even though we might not be working with clothes directly, I know that this particular outfit with this particular makeup and everything is not going to look great. Or a particular hairstyle, like, it's going to elongate your face, but this bride would have seen that particular hairstyle. This happens a lot with hair, actually,
yeah,
where they come with a lot of dated
the volume
references, volume. They need that puff
puff, yes.
and the certain curls.
Forgetting that
Uh,
it's an outdoor event and then it's
Absolutely.
going to go crazy at
That,
one
as well
point.
as also sometimes what you're seeing is it can also age you, right? For us,
Ah,
I think for me, one of the most important thing when you're doing hair and makeup is that it shouldn't make you look older than what you are. And I feel like that, and a lot of times it happens with hair, when especially when it comes with the poof and the height. When you already have a long face but you want a little more height, it's only going to elongate your face even more, right? Or even in terms of, say, like, like wearing lenses. Like, lenses doesn't suit everybody, but your
skin tone.
yes, and but also your idea of beauty, you're stuck in an idea of beauty which is, say, from the 90s or early 2000s, which is very Bollywood. But that works for camera because you're in front of a moving camera, so the lens kind of adds and makes it look a little more natural, but that in reality looks very different. Or even like a highlighter, right? You send me a references of highlighter on the tip of the nose,
Right,
which is a very Instagram trend, but
right.
then you want to do it because you think that's
Cool.
that's how you want to glow. But it's like, it makes sense if you have like a shorter nose, then it's fine, it'll elongate your nose. But if you already have long nose, why would you put highlighter there? So I feel like there are a lot of requests that does come in, but I think at some point I do tell them that it is going to make you look dated. And some of them trust your, most of the time, I think they trust you with what you're offering. But I think sometimes, like I said, I want the person to be happy, because it's their day. And if they strongly feel, or sometimes if that's what's going to make them comfortable, then I do give in to that and give them whatever their desire is, so
Right.
yeah.
Especially nowadays when and most of the brides in US, especially who are in the medical profession, they don't end up wearing makeup.
Mm.
It's like Bombay, right? We never wore makeup in Bombay
Right.
because you sweat so much.
Yes.
Growing up, never there was no concept of makeup. So what happens is when they go for the day of the wedding, suddenly they cannot recognize themselves. So they try to tell you like, oh, don't, you know what, go natural. So do you have like, okay, we start off with the least amount and then you grow gradually for the multi-day events?
So for me, I'm not someone who likes to put too much makeup. That's, I
Okay.
think, that's been my signature style of doing makeup, I'd say, which is what I'm known for, like the no makeup look. What I like to play around is mostly your features. So, most Indian girls are blessed with beautiful eyes or, lips, or like, so I feel like you can always play around with that. And I generally like to kind of give you different looks over, say, a 3-day wedding. You might have at least 4 or 5 functions. So each of the look, I'd like to give you a completely different look, but still keeping your essence, not really taking away from who you are or making you unrecognizable. Um, and one of the main things for that is foundation. You cannot be, adding or layering foundation. So I feel that's when you look completely different. And sometimes it's like I've seen so many bridal pictures or videos where the girl has actually looked way
Better.
better without the makeup on, and it's some of my own like, friend or whatever. And I feel like the key for me here is, how do you kind of look, or rather the key for me is, how can I make you look glam without really taking away from who you actually are. And I feel like makeup is supposed to enhance you, not make you look different or not
Correct.
age you. And I feel like that's a sensibility part that I kind of bring in from fashion, which I also feel that a lot of bridal makeup a lot of brides come to me for that, because, they see my work in a Sabyasachi or on Deepika, and, there's not really much foundation there. I personally, on myself, I hate feeling foundation or feeling makeup because I feel like it's so uncomfortable. And a lot of times when I work on people, they're like, oh my God, it feels like nothing is on my face.
Correct.
And yeah, so there's never the thing of building. I feel for all the 5 different functions, I'll play around with your eyeshadow or your eyes or your lips, or there's so many different ways to make someone look very distinct. And I think that's one of the things that I kind of like credit my fashion background to,
Yes.
because it's like creating, different characters for different, situations or functions. Yeah.
After listening to you, I feel like boot camps,
Mm-hmm.
right? According to me, I think the wedding planners, because we have so much stress, the best is when you have some kind of training in the hotels.
Mm.
I come from hotel background and I worked for the Regent Hotel, which is now the Taj Lens, and I worked for JW Marriott Hotel, and that toughened me.
Mm.
And like I can work on a few things. I think that's a boot camp in the fashion industry for hair and makeup. I think everybody
Absolutely.
should go and work, take an experience. Just don't wake up one day and say, "Oh, you know what? I am the hair and makeup artist for the brides today."
Absolutely. Yeah.
I,
Yeah, it's I think it's taught us a lot. Like I feel like the same kind of like prep in terms of the fact that I worked on so many faces for magazines, because with magazines it's like it's about getting creative. It's about working on different face types, like young, old. You get to meet all kinds of people, but I think also at the same time you don't have a lot of time, and especially when you're doing working on fashion shows and things like that is really fast. But you have to achieve the end look, and I feel that really also helped me as a celebrity makeup artist, because even when I worked with Deepika at, say, at a Cannes, we were doing, say, 3 to 4 changes of makeup every day, because she'd go from like one press con to like another, like a review, and then to the main red carpet. And then there has been times where I've done the main red carpet in 20 minutes,
oh,
and you can't really say if it's taken like an hour or like even like. And there's another really iconic image of hers, which is where she's wearing the black sari, sabyasachi sari, and the black liner, technically that liner I would take about probably, I would say, an hour, hour and a half, because it's graphic, it's got a lot of precision. But on that day, I think we got her ready, hair, makeup. She had this really amazing big hairdo, which we all worked parallelly. There was nails happening, um, including the sari drape. We got her ready in an hour. So technically, something like that would take about 2.5, 3 hours. And a lot of people don't realize the amount of pressure that is there. You don't have time. And I remember that because Cannes is also such a busy time of the year and all the rooms are booked, we were cramped up in this small room and there was no space, but it was literally her sitting here and four of us were orbiting around her, and we were just trying to do that. And yeah, it's a lot of pressure. And then I feel, but it's all like the prep work for me happened, when I was mostly doing fashion, and that kind of translates into the celebrity work. And then of course I feel like wedding for me honestly is not so much of a stressful thing. It's in fact a more chilled out.
Right. I completely understand, because same thing with the planners. If at all you worked in hotel, wedding is not that stressful. Everyone asked me, I said, oh my God, wedding industry must be so stressful. You have everything. But I've done
Exactly.
much more pressured things, right? So
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I think that should be a rule, that every hair and makeup artist should work in fashion industry for at least 1 year, understand the pressure that you have to go through to do this, because we do have multiple looks, right?
Yeah.
Like we have the morning ceremony, and then they will be able to take only half an hour nap, the bride, and then immediately go into the next one. Just imagine, it's a dream. 1 hour, if you get the second look done, it's a
Yeah.
dream. Keep that up. What is the realistic time for the brides to get ready? I know that 1 hour you have done it, and that's a dream, but usually what's the realistic time that you keep?
So usually I keep about 3 hours.
Okay.
And the way I break it down is half an hour is always buffer. Keep that half an hour to fix certain things. Sometimes you never know. Um, Time just flies, right? And then 2 hours is, I'd say, when the hair and makeup, I like to do it in ease and in a very relaxed way. I also don't like to allow anybody in the room, so it's just my team, the bride, some great music. And for me, I call this her relaxation time. And it's also for me the time when I'm getting to know her, because I feel makeup is a lot also about personality. And this time with me, it kind of like, the chat that we have, I get to know a little more about her, and I feel I'm able to bring that through makeup as well. So that's very important for me. So 2 hours for hair and makeup, half an hour to get in the change and the draping and things like that. So if they do get ready in 2.5 hour, then we just do pictures, and or the photography team comes in, and then we do the pictures.
Or
Yeah.
just chill?
Or just chill. Yeah. Yeah.
What is a trend that is coming up? Like, do you think 2026 that, oh, this is what we're going to see?
I'm not a very trend based person, and I think I feel like trends come and go, and especially with weddings, because I feel like these are pictures that you're going to have for your lifetime. I feel like I like to keep everything classic. So I'm never going to be like, okay, the trend is blue eyeshadow. Now I'm going to try blue eyeshadow on you because you're wearing a blue outfit or whatever. So I feel like my approach to makeup, and especially bridal makeup, is always been classic, so that you look back, or your kids or your grandparents, and I feel that sorry, your grandchildren, when they look back, they need to be like, oh my God, this is so timeless. And I feel that when we look at our images or like wedding pictures of our parents, because all they did was they had these beautiful red and white bindis.
That's true.
One big, like a round red bindi and kajal and lipstick. And those pictures are so timeless right now. And there's no trend, there's nothing. And of course, in the 90s and 2000s, we did go through a phase of like, crazy color eyeshadows and things like that. Or even like powdery faces and things like that, which is kind of something that I want to stay away from. So I feel classic, timeless. So I don't really give into trends. Even when somebody wants it, I make them aware that so and so. But if they do want, like if they have a theme, which a lot of people are having these days, like a Gatsby theme, then we go all out crazy, but if it's your fairas, if it's like, your reception, you want it to be like an all-time classic.
Right, timeless. I think and when you're talking about the parents' a wedding, I'm just thinking about my mom's wedding picture, and I don't think she even wore a lipstick.
Mm,
It's just kajal and bindi and the dots that the
yeah,
Gujarati brides usually wear, and that's
yeah.
about it. I mean, such a nice look for that. Uh, I just remembered that. uh, so now, the luxury, the brand and everything, which you have it now. Do you also work with a certain brand of makeup products? Like how particular you are about that? Because I know that a lot of my brides would ask that question.
Yeah. I think rule number one for me definitely is the products have to be amazing in terms of texture, longevity, and again, if that's something that I won't put on my face, you won't find on my kit. And I think very early on, I don't want to name the brand, but it's a very widely used, very famous brand. And I remember using the foundation on my skin and I broke out, and I was like, and that was the only brand that was available back in India. And I was like, I swore that I will never have those foundations in my kit. And I think for me, I'm also very particular about the ingredients that goes in. I'm not going to you do, so that's why I feel like my kit mostly luxury.
Mhm.
I also feel that drugstore products are great, but I feel like there's always a difference between a drugstore brand and a premium or a luxury brand. And especially when it comes to, say, skin or lipsticks and things like that. So it's very important for me um, to ensure that you can feel the luxury of these products when you wear it. It needs to feel rich, it needs to feel like you're wearing something premium. And I think ever since the time that I started, I always had an eye for finding these products which were always somehow luxurious. And I think my kit has always been built that way. And no matter, even when I was starting on early on, I remember there are certain bridal artists which have two pricing range. One
Yes.
for, if I get so much, is this much. If I get, and I think
That's
that's
not
so
fair.
wrong.
Yes, that's not fair.
Because I feel like, because for me it was like it didn't matter, because I remember even early on when I was doing a lot of like um jobs for free and things like that, was just getting people ready to build my book. I remember putting the most expensive stuff on people's face because it's makeup, it's going to last, right? You're not going to finish your entire bottle of foundation at least for a year and a half. So I feel like it's always about quality, and it's always about, because I feel once your client feels that lux or the richness that you're talking about, I feel like they're always going to recommend you. They're going to come back. Of course, technique and all of those aesthetic, all of that also matters. But I feel having great products is so important, and not to skimp on it, because especially as you're getting bigger in your career, I feel like that will definitely help you attract or at least get more clients in your kitty. Yeah.
Agreed. And that uh, the next question is connected to it. I believe you have your own product.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So tell us more about it. Very exciting, by the way.
Thank you. So, yeah, so it's called Moke Beauty,
Okay.
and Moke means with love, from my mother tongue Tulu, which is Mangalore. And I've always wanted, it's been a dream for almost like 12 years that I wanted to start this brand, purely from the frustration that there was no brands that was really catering to, say, the Indian skin tone.
Mhm.
And I think every time I'd use something on people, they'd be like, oh, what is that you've used? Like mostly foundation, concealer, or even eyeshadows. I'd be like, oh, this is a mix of this and this. And it was always so difficult for me to give them one product. Be like, okay, this is your shade and this is your, tone or whatever. And that was, I'd say, the starting of where moche or the idea of moche began. It wasn't moche then, but I was like, I want to start something for the Indian women. And I feel as we went, like this 2017-18 is when I started developing the brand. And it just started off with like wanting to start something for Indian women, but I think by then I was going through my own personal journey of um, moving on to a very clean lifestyle. So I started getting into like reading the ingredients, like, and realizing that again, there are not many clean brands that are available for Indian skin tone. There are about like handful really good clean brands internationally, but again, finding my tones, finding all of that was impossible. So we were almost about to launch in 2019. The pandemic happened. We paused everything, and then the next thing, I went on this big pause where I was like, okay, what do we do? Because we didn't even know if we were going to survive, right? Like the
Correct.
initial 6 months, 1 year was like, oh
So
my
much
God,
uncertainty.
so much uncertainty. And I think it's only in 2022, it had a full, I'd say, rebirth and a reshaping that happened, wherein, um, again, through my own personal journey, I think I'd had a very spiritual awakening as well at that point in time, or I'd say my spiritual practice deepened. And I think there was a calling to kind of make this clean brand into something more bigger. And the idea of like holistic beauty started from there. So our idea with Moche is that beauty is not just something that you feel from the outside, but what you feel from inside. So that's Moche in like a nutshell for you, yeah.
Is it already in the market?
It's already in the market, and we have about 3 products now. We have, again, it's very slow and steady in the sense that we test our products for about almost a year and a half to 2 years before we put them out in the market. It's I'd say high performance, high natural ingredient brand, and that's why we take a lot of time in terms of formulating, testing, and that's why the slow drop of products as well. So we have the kajals, we have mascara, and which is one of the only tubing mascara in the clean category in India, and we recently launched brow gels. Yeah,
Brow gels too?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Where
yeah.
can we find it?
So right now it's on our website, mokebeauty.com. So, but we are also trying to like look for partnerships to kind of like go on other platforms and things like that.
Sure, of course.
And we do ship worldwide. So yeah.
Okay, the rapid fire.
Yeah.
Sandhya, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. One non-negotiable product in your kit.
Concealer,
Hair up or hair down for ceremonies?
hair up.
Perfect. One thing that every bride should hear before walking down the aisle.
You are beautiful. Just have fun.
Yes, thank you. I think you did very well. I have a very short rapid fire. Now, just one like a big advice that you want to give it to the brides who are looking to hire a hair and makeup artist. What is one thing that they should look for?
I feel most important, connect to their work. I feel a lot of times, like I said, it shouldn't be the event planner. Of course, they can give suggestions, but go and see intuitively who do you feel called towards, because I feel that's very important. Um, and I feel the second important thing is sit and like work with them, like ask them questions if till you feel convinced about what you're getting on that day, because I feel it's your big day, and till you don't feel 100% okay, it's okay to ask questions. It's absolutely fine. And I think trust the process, very important.
Yes.
Because we as makeup artists, we do this day in and day out. So if you're suggesting something, it's coming from a place of knowing. And of course, intuitively, if you feel that, okay, this is not aligning with me, speak up. But that's why the step one becomes very important. Get to know their work. It needs to be in alignment with your style of makeup. Yeah.
Right. So you heard it over here that as soon as you are engaged, go and speak to the makeup artist that you want to hire. Very important, connecting.
Yeah.
I always tell the brides and grooms that there are a couple of vendors that you need to connect in person.
Mm-hmm.
Decorators, caterers, you don't have to like them personally.
Absolutely.
But hair and makeup artists, you have to like them personally and they have to like you back.
Mm-hmm.
The photo video team, you have to like them and they have to like you back. And the planners. I always tell them, I said, I need to like you need to like, and it has to be a proper marriage before the actual wedding.
So vibe check, right?
Exactly. So, but thank you so much, Sandhya. This has been a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to working with you for many more weddings. soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.